you sleepyheads, get up, get up, get out of bed. Cheer up, the sun is red. Live, love, laugh and be happy. What if
Hello and welcome to this week's Robin Pod Weekly, which is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Joining me for this very special episode is James Perlin, a Robin Pod regular. We also have Andrew Freeman, who's joining us live from the United States of America later on. He lives in Arizona. He's a Hull Kingston Rovers supporter. So we're going to get his opinion on all things Kingston Rovers. We've also got Keith's Corner, Robin's Remembered, Question Time and Stat Attack, which is going to be very interesting this week because just before we came on air to record this Robin Pod, I reached to get my notes that I'd been compiling in preparation for tonight. Yeah, some of you may find that hard to believe that I do actually do some research and compile notes in readiness. And guess what? I've left them at work. So we are going into this a little bit naked, James, probably me more than you. Great to have you on the Robin Pod, James. We're going to go straight into the Salford game. We pretty much carried on from where we left off against St Helens.
We did, yeah. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chris. I thought it was a really, a very strong performance. Without, I think the comments after the game from Willie Peters was that there's probably another gear in the squad after that game. And I think, when you look back on it, there was. But I just think, we've been talking about 80-minute games all season, but I think what really stood out for me on Friday night was a lot of around the game management. The start. I think Salford started off came with certainly came with a plan to try and knock Rovers off their step. And I thought for that first 20-25 minutes, it was probably the toughest game we'd had over the last sort of few weeks or so. But Salford just seems to run out of gas, and then we took control, and then just managed the game and managed our energy levels ready for this week.
Yeah, James, it was Salford who got on the scoreboard first, wasn't it, in the 7th minute? And then it took the Robins until the 23rd minute to get on the scoreboard. And I was watching the game sort of in that first 15 minutes thinking we're in for a real battle here because Lee seemed to be fronting up in attack in terms of the forwards. Sneyd was getting a little bit of a foothold in the game. But then as soon as the Robins scored that first try, it was almost we never looked back, and it took that try to sort of spark us into life, and boy did it, because from that point onwards it wasn't total domination, but it was total control, and I think the Robins pack did very well in controlling Salford, which ultimately left Mark Sneyd with very much hardly any time on the ball, any decent field position. His kicking game wasn't great, was it? Because he was having to kick from deep, and I do think that was credit to the Robins, and it was a changed Robins lineup as well.
Yeah, it was. And I think that the word you use there, control. I think they said that's probably really sums it up really well. But I think it also just demonstrates the fact that we can bring in the likes of Broadbent and 𝗏𝗏 and Staunton into the pack, and we didn't lose anything. It was seamless, and I think that's really again just highlights the strength and depth we've got in the squad this year. Broadbent, I think he's been a fantastic signing. I think I'll be honest, I didn't really know a lot about him before he came on loan. But boy, he's certainly taken the chances he's had. He's certainly taken them with both hands. And the great thing about him is his versatility. He can play centre, he can play on the wing. He didn't look out of place in either spot, and I think defensively he's very solid as well.
Yeah, and James, you can tell I've completely forgot my notes, and thank you for not pulling me up on it, because of course it was the Robins who scored first, wasn't it? After just 2 minutes, it was the second try that the Robins scored on the 23rd minute. This could be a long night, James, and I shouldn't even need my notes for that one, should I? I should just have a better memory. So let's see.
I didn't remember either, did I? But I've got age as an excuse.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is. But James, like we just said there about seasons gone past when when the Robin side would have lost players of the quality of 𝗀𝗲𝗁𝗂𝗁 and 𝗀𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and then having to replace them. We'd have probably been scratching around, wouldn't we, trying to either move players into that position, and especially at this stage of the season, the fact that Jack Broadbent, who I think has been one of the finds of the season, really, we all knew what he was capable of, but let's be honest, he was sort of faltering at Castleford a little bit. He's come to the Robins and absolutely took his opportunity, especially on Friday against Salford with his 2 tries. A performance that saw him end up in the Super League Team of the Week. And then Tom 𝗲𝗂𝗧 as well. I think this was his first game in 5, last featured against the Leeds Rhinos. It was seamless, not only just filled the position, absolutely contributed as well to the victory.
It was, and I said that it just shows the highlights of the strength and depth we've got. And I think probably 𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏𝗂𝗧's tried start of the second half that probably just really settled the game down for us and just won it for us at the end of the day. Because of that, with that sort of lead, Salford weren't going to come back with the defensive display that we were doing. Again, just total domination in defence. You could see Salford struggling to get out of their own 20 really on a number of occasions, and they said having to rely on Sneyd putting kicks in, but because of the pressure on him, it was totally ineffective.
Yeah, I think there's certain players who have really stepped up in the last few weeks. I think Michael Lewis is, of course, one of them. I think he's been man of the match 5 out of the last 6 games, which is good for him in terms of his Man of Steel standing, because he'll be racking up big points there, and there's every chance that he will end up Man of Steel coming the end of the season based on what he does over the next few weeks. But I think another player is his partner, Tyrone May. I think he's really stepped up to the fore in terms of what he's done with ball in hand. We've all seen his defensive efforts, and let's be honest, there's been times over the course of the season, hasn't there, but when certain Robins fans have been questioning whether he should be included inside, even if you go back to the start of the season, when people were sort of seeing his language style and his relaxed nature, whether he'd be able to do the job for the Robins. Well, for me, James, he's one player of the last few weeks who's definitely stepped up.
It definitely has, and you're right. I think early in the season, I think there was a number of fans who were sort of scratching their heads about, you knew we could do it, because he was obviously, I think, was the top try assist last season in Super League with Catalan, so we knew we could do it, but it just, for whatever reason, just didn't seem to be clicking early in the season. But boy, he's made up for it now. They're just totally controlling games. His defense, for a halfback, his defense is just unbelievable. He very rarely makes an error in defence, and he's starting to make those inputs into the game through his passing, through his kicking, etc. That just opens up the opposition's defences, and it's great. And the fact it's been great that we've had some stability at halfback as well. And I think Lewis and May certainly do complement each other. I think May's probably more the more the scheming sort of like bigger picture type player, whereas Mikey's just he's just got that spark, and I think he just showed it on Friday night with that try. He really had no right to score that try. From when he got the ball and just ran out of defence and just carved them open. It was just absolutely sensational. And I think I said to my steps on, I think it's probably one of the tries of the season. It's going to be a long time before you see a better try than that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, half-time, James, 20 points to 6. I think most Robin supporters in the stadium and watching on TV will have been thinking that's pretty much the game done and dusted. But I think it was a try just after half-time. Tom 𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏, a great offload from 𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗏, who seems to be getting better and better each week. For me, he's a set for the Super League Dream Team.
Definitely.
I know people have said about his first few games of the season, but there's no way that should even come into play in terms of whether he should be in that Super League Dream Team. And he's following in Sean Kenny-Dowell's footsteps in being a centre who I think should be in that side. Tom 𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏, we've mentioned about how he fitted in. Interestingly, I think McDonald, the opposition centre who was facing, he's made 100 metres in every game he's played this season. The only time he hasn't is in 2 games, and one of them was on Friday when he was facing Tom 𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏. So I do think Tom 𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗏's defence and his positioning made a huge difference in Salford's ability to make big meters, because McDonald is a player who does make big meters for them. So, you know, sometimes it is luck of the draw, isn't it? You know, opportunity got his chance because of injuries, and he's took it. And we're going to come on to that about when we talk about the Wigan game on Friday. It leaves Willie Peters with a bit of a conundrum, doesn't it? Because he does seem to be someone who, if a player comes in and takes their chance, is prepared to reward them.
He does, and I think it is. It's a fantastic headache to have. I suppose, ironically, you could also say the same about Broadbent. You know, he scored two good tries Friday night, but you know, again, given the form that Joe Burgess has been in, you'd have to say, yeah, Burgess is going to come straight back in. But yeah, you know, I think you know, it's obviously going to come down to whether Gildart's going to be fit and whether he's still getting over his head issues. If he's still not 100%, then you know, Opetec will certainly play, and he'll certainly put a shift in. You know, it's a shame that he's going at the end of the season because he has always been a solid player. But it just shows that, you know, again, the depth of quality we've got in the side and the squad, that somebody of Tom's quality just can't get into the team. And like I said, that's the first time he's played since he played in the second row at Headingley. You know,
yeah.
So he wasn't even playing the centres then. You know, the only way could put him in was putting him in the second row.
Yeah. And it's interesting as well, James. I mean, what's your opinion on how he's using 𝗪𝗂𝗃𝗃 and Jez Litton at the moment? Because I think it was in his previous press conference, Willie Peters, he's discussed about how Jez Litton's adding a bit of chaos factor. He's injecting pace into the side when the opposition are faltering and are tiring. And it is quite evident to see, actually, isn't it, when we come to this stage of the season, that a lot of these sides that we've faced, albeit whether they're facing injuries, you know, whatever, but they are tiring. And Jez Litton is just coming on, and it's telling that he's come on and got another try at the back end of the game, taking advantage of tired defence.
It does, and I just think we do seem to, as a collective, perform better when 𝗂𝗃𝗃 is starting. I think, you know, he has that bit more solidity, and I think when defenses are fresh and Litton starts, it doesn't have that sort of impact. And I think, you know, you're right, when he comes on, defenses are tiring and he can just cause that havoc. And you imagine being the opposition team, you're thinking you played 60-65 minutes or so, you know, you've been tackling, you've had, you know, like some Whitbread and Sue and all coming at you all day, and then 15-20 minutes to go, they bring Litton on, you know, fresh as a daisy to run rings around you, and he does. You know, that the try he got, was it against Leeds? You know, we weren't going to look. You know, it just settled us that try at Leeds, and he does. He just brings that chaos. That, you know, the defenders probably hate.
Oh, without doubt, James. And of course, any golf fans out there who are watching the British Open on Sky Sports will have seen Mikey Lewis and Jez Litton at the British Open. They was interviewed live on Sky, on the Sky Golf channel, and they got to do a few bits and bobs, and obviously huge golf fans then too. It's great to see that they're getting this coverage out there. Rugby league players are getting this crossover coverage, because I do think that this is part of IMG's strategy to grow the game. I think it's not the first time that we've seen Super League players at other sporting events. I think we've seen players at Wimbledon, the UFC over the course of the season. And Jez Litton and Mikey Lewis at the golf. I suppose it's great to see, and we need more of this if we're really going to grow the game.
We do, and I think, you know, that's, you know, hopefully that's something that IMG are going to do, because, you know, the game really needs it. You need, you know, the players like Mikey and Jeff, so people, you know, Rover supporters, you know, the role models for them anyway. But it's that wider game, and I mean, I'm old enough to remember when you know, Martin 𝗪𝗪 was in his prime, and you know, he was just like, everybody knew who Martin 𝗪𝗪 was, and same with Ellery Hanley, because there were superstars of the game. Yeah, and it's that sort of level I think we need to be getting to now. And you know, bringing it to wider audience is exactly what they need. What they need to be doing, and it's not just them; it's the whole game that sort of gets the lift as well, and gets people talking about it. And you know, hopefully that's what part of IMG's strategy is. I think, you know, I think it's not unreasonable to say, I think there's a lot of questions around their involvement already about, you know, what benefit is the game getting? And if they can pull that sort of thing off using their media clout, etc., then hold my hands up and say well done.
Yeah, well, another remarkable performance for the Robins, keeping Salford down to 12 points. It continued to run, doesn't it, James? A fantastic defence from the Robins. The last time we conceded more than 12 was, of course, against London, ironically, when we conceded 16 points. Remarkable, really, this run that we're going on, and it is going to be more important than ever when we take on Wigan. Before we discuss that, and before we bring Andrew Freeman onto the show, though, I caught with Steve Till for Robins Remembered. Steve, once again, you're bringing us Robins Remembered. Last week, it was the great Alan Barewell. Who you got for us this time?
I've got Harry Poole, one of the greatest skippers that the side ever had. Harry was born in Pontefract, and he was a Cast lad, although he never actually played for Castleford. He came to Rovers after a 5-year stint at Hunslet, where he really was a legend at Hunslet. But Rovers were on the lookout for an experienced forward. He came in 1962. They were on the lookout for an experienced forward who could mould the young pack that we had in Peter Flanagan, John Taylor, Brian Tyson, and Colin Hutton recognised Harry, who'd also been hunted by Leeds at the time. Leeds offered about, I think, £500 plus a player, which was nowhere near Harry's value to Hunslet. And so Harry came to Rovers, and his heritage number is 662. So he came to Rovers in 62, and he was the first Rovers captain. Rovers captain to captain the side at Wembley. He actually played his first game for Rovers against Oldham, and after that game, they made Harry captain, and he remained captain for the rest of his Rovers career. He captained the team to the Yorkshire Cup final in 1962. And he was one of 4 Rovers players that had to leave the field. Rovers were beaten by Hunslet, funnily enough, by 12 points to 2. And Harry broke his leg. And Rovers finished the match with 9 players. It was pre-substitutes. So I think that was the game where the idea of having substitutes came into the heads of people. And Harry, because of course had Rovers, at that time when substitutes were on, they were only allowed up to half time, and we were only allowed two substitutes. And I'm pretty sure that they'd have been well used in that Yorkshire Cup final. He gained honours with Great Britain. He played in the Test match against France in Perpignan in 1965. The second Test, which would have been over in, I think it was at Wigan, Harry couldn't play because he'd broken his arm. So, but then Leeds moved in for Harry, and Rovers sold him right out the blue, 1965. They sold Harry to Leeds, and he became the Great Britain tour captain for 1966. Although he was the tour captain, he never captained Great Britain in a Test match. But he carried on his career with Leeds, and then he went into coaching, and he coached Hunslet for a couple of years. He coached Castleford for a couple of years, and then he left the game for 3 years, and then Rovers moved in for him as a coach after Arthur Bunting had left, and as coach, it was phenomenal, and he took Rovers to the semi-final of the Cup in 1977. On the way to that semi-final, we beat Keighley 2010. We beat the dark side 12 points to 9, and a game I remember very well. We beat Castleford 25-15, and that Rovers team seemed destined to get to Wembley. And we were drawn against Widnes in the semi-final, and sadly, devastatingly, 2 weeks before, I opened the Hull Daily Mail, and the headline was Harry Poole was dead. He died at the age of 42, and he had that Rovers team. It was as good at the time as you could imagine, and but sadly he died. We played the cup semi-final a fortnight later. Roger Millwood became player coach, and we got beat 14-5 at Headingley. So we never managed to get to Wembley that year. But Harry was, as a forward, he was barnstorming. It was people of my generation, when as we've come along in life, we've watched loose forwards play for Rovers, and anybody you ask in my generation, you say, what do you think of him? You say, he's good, but he's not as good as Harry Poole was. Harry Poole was a legend in his career at Rovers, well loved by the fans, well loved by the directors. Colin Hutton took him on, and it must have been one of the best signings Colin Hutton made, but a truly great red and white.
Yeah, Stephen, he's not the first player, is he, to be born in West Yorkshire and play for West Yorkshire sides, but really it was at the Robins where he made his name.
Kind of. To be honest, he was a great player for Hunslet. He played in a great Hunslet pack with Jeff Gunny and Bernard Pryor. And another guy from Hull, a docker, called Sam Smith. Sam, for some reason, signed for Hunslet. He lived on Brandzone, but played for Hunslet, and he played alongside Harry. But yeah, I can. He really did come. His best part of his playing career was with Rovers. Yeah.
Right, James, we're going to stick with Rovers heritage because we're going to move on to one of the probably most popular features of the Robin Pod, which is Keith's Corner.
Good afternoon. Oh, is it good evening? Thanks for having me back again, once again. I had a nice comment this week, didn't I, on X Factor, whatever the other called it. Anyway, we'll start off. Now we've got to the 1900, right? In that time, there was two divisions during that era, Yorkshire and Lancashire. But the top teams got their heads together and decided to change to a one-league Premier Division. Where have we had that before? Of 14 clubs. The Lancashire clubs desired that all their clubs be included, and only two from Yorkshire, one being Hull FC. Obviously, the Yorkshire team boycotted the idea, but it was passed until the following year, which brought us to 1901. That season, with the Yorkshire clubs that had been left out of the Premier Division, faced significant challenges. So Hull and Rovers organised friendly games against each other to raise funds, much to the disappointment of other Yorkshire clubs. As a result, Rovers were thrown out of the Yorkshire senior competition for breaking the boycott. But they didn't care, to be honest, because there was that many Lancashire clubs that were willing to play friendlies in the Lancashire senior competition. Rovers went there, and they finished 5th out of 13 clubs. The club moved there, and also the club moved to the new headquarters at the Durham Ox pub on Blanket Row, which isn't far from the old fruit market. Come to 1905, there was Challenge Cup finalists losing to Warrington. 1920, they beat Hull FC on the 27th of November and became Yorkshire Cup champions. Then they moved to 1922. They made a short trip from Craven Street to the new home at Craven Park. Rovers won the League Cup Championship, beating Huddersfield 15-5. That was the only one they won until Rovers finished second in the league in 1925 and won the League Championship Cup. And the Yorkshire League Cup were semi-finalists in the Yorkshire Cup and runners-up in the Challenge Cup. So things was getting good. Now, I picked two top players out this week. One was Alf Bunker Carmichael. He was born East Hull lad, and his nickname was gained whilst working in the fruit trade, where workers were allowed to supplement their wages by taking home a bag of fruit and vegetables, which was called a bunker bag. He made his debut in 1903, and his last game was in 1919, kicking 813 goals and 12 tries. He once kicked 14 goals in one game against Merthyr Tydfil. I also must mention 𝗫𝗂𝗃𝗃, which people may have heard of, but he still holds the world record for scoring 53 points in one game, including 11 tries and 10 goals. This feat is still a club and British Rugby League record for the number of tries in a single game. Now that's some record. That's it for this week, folks. Thanks.
We've got a picture as well, haven't we, Keith? Just to show.
Yeah, just show the picture. Yeah.
So, Keith, this is what the Kingston Rovers Northern Union Football Club side from 1913-14 season.
That's right. And Bunker Carmichael's the captain, obviously the one with the ball. It's a great old photo, that. Wonderful. This is what it's all about. This is the heritage. This is what I love about Rugby League and Old Kingston Rovers heritage, although some may differ.
And Keith, I mean, is it easy to get images like this? And because I've researched things and tried to check history, and there seems to be a big gap in trying to find information and images.
Yeah, if you go on Rovers heritage site, right, you can get onto the virtual museum. And if you get on that, there's a lot of old folk. Brian Leeson, who used to be on the committee with me before this lot took over, the Heritage Committee, there was 6 of us that we used to meet every week, or every month, sorry. And Brian used to get photographs and he'd put them on. And I've got quite a few. They're not hard to find, but they're not, should I say, they're not easy to find, but they're not hard, are they? Just try Wikipedia or places like that. But as I say, if you look on the Rovers Heritage part, I believe you can get through to the virtual museum, which is brilliant. I was one of them that helped put that together, along with that and the timeline. A lot of hard work went into that, but it's great when you look at photographs like this.
Yeah, if you are interested in the history of Hull Kingston Rovers, which I know many of the listeners and viewers will be, just Google Hull KR Heritage Museum and it'll take you there. And there's a wealth of information, images, facts and figures, not just about the team and the club, but about Craven Park and the history of Old Craven Park and New Craven Park. So there's lots and lots of information on there. And Keith's had a big part in pulling that all together. Keith, what will we be covering next week?
We'll be carrying on the timeline.
Right, let's bring your family back into the land of the living. And joining us live from the United States of America is Andrew Freeman. Welcome to the Robin Pod, Andrew.
Thank you, Johno. Good to see you, James. How are you all doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Andrew. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
Good. Well, we had Leonard, the Robin from Oz, on a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Andrew, tell us about your journey from supporting Hull Kingston Rovers, how that started out to ending up in Arizona, I'm thinking.
Yep. Arizona. So how do we start out? So the first question is, how did I support Rovers? I don't think I had any option other than supporting Rovers. So my dad, my grandma, my aunt, all my family, as far as I remember, supported Rovers. And I just remember going every week pretty much. And there was no choice. It was support Rovers and that was it. So, and thankfully I've kept it up. So.
And then how did you end up in Arizona, Andrew?
So it's not an interesting story, but it's a long story. So I was in 2004, I think it was. I was just on exchange. So I was at Hull University and they basically said, you can go anywhere in the world, but we'll have to sit anywhere in the world that we decide, basically is what it was. And so they sent me to Arizona and I met who is now my wife a week after being here. And then back in 2008, we moved back to Arizona, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. Well, I can say you've been there a while, Andrew, because you're already starting to lose them dulcet Hull tones.
I know. Well, the funny part of it is, when I first moved here, like nobody could understand a word I said. I had to have my wife literally translate for me what people were saying. And so in order to get a job, I had to change how I spoke a bit. And so, yeah. So this is how it is. And my kids all make fun of me now because they have American accents. But every so often, the whole world will come in and they'll like, oh, no. And, my kids all make fun of it. And
James, I don't think I've ever heard anything quite like it.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I suppose where you're in Arizona, Andrew, I suppose it's a bit mafting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Like, what's the weather right now? So on my watch, I always have it in Celsius. Let me see. So right now it's 38. And so that's actually cool. It's cooling down right now. Now's the time of year when it starts to get cold.
What time of the day is it there then?
It is almost 1 p.m. So it's 12 o'clock. Yeah. 8 hours behind.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a AI generated accent. This is what I imagine if it's like the whole in Arizona. But Andrew, I mean, obviously, the world's a big place, but everything's a lot easier now with the internet and TV coverage.
Mm-hmm.
How easy is it for you to follow the Robins over in the States?
It's pretty easy. What was to me was really fascinating when I first moved over. It was super easy. They just had a subscription that you paid for. You could watch all of whatever was on Sky. But halfway through that season, they cancelled it. And up until this year, it was next to impossible to find, legally obtainable ways of watching the games. And so, but now this year it's pretty easy. You can just subscribe to Super League Plus and you can watch all the games on there. In terms of social media stuff, it's a lot easier now, especially I think Craig and his team are doing a great job at Rovers, making it so we can actually follow online. But yeah, it was kind of fascinating. The first year or so was really easy and had a period of time where it's difficult. And then it's gotten easy again. So.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, there'll be plenty of people listening and watching this Robin pod who can help you out if you need illegal methods of obtaining footage of the Robins. So if anyone does need to get in touch with him, I'm sure you'll be able to sort him out. Andrew, what have you made of the season so far? Because me and James were just about to talk about the Wigan game, which is coming up on Friday night, which is obviously huge. Some people are confident. Some people are typically Rovers fans, where we're heart in mouth, almost talking ourselves out of the possibility that something special might actually happen.
Yeah, so the season's been pretty unbelievable. So what's kind of funny is over here we've kind of got an unofficial Rovers supporters club now. So there's me, my kids, my 9-year-old absolutely loves Rovers. Like his goal is he wants to play for Rovers. Almost every night he goes to bed in a Rovers shirt. We have some people that are from here. So when we were in the Challenge Cup against Leeds, we had a watch party. There's tons of people there. And so I have a friend now that every game, if I've not seen the game, he's always sharing the social media posts with me. Hey, did you watch this? Did you watch that? And so I think, unfortunately, I've trained a lot of them in bad habits in that we're typical Rovers supporters, that even though currently top of the league, doing great, I'm never confident in Rovers that they're going to finish it. Hopefully that changes after this year, but we could be 100 points up with 2 minutes to go, and I'm still not confident.
That's me.
So, but having said that, though, I have a feeling that even if we don't beat Wigan, I still think we're going to win the League Leaders' Shield. I'm not as confident about winning the grand final.
Would that? I mean, I'm pretty thinking along the same lines. That'd still represent huge success, though, wouldn't it, for the Robins?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't care what
the journey of the last 5 years.
Yeah, forget those Hull FC fans where they're trying to it's not a major trophy. Get out, of course it is. If you're the best team over the year, it doesn't matter whether or not we say the grand final is the championship. If you can win the League Leaders' Shield, you're the best team over the year. It is a major trophy. So just the fact that we're even having this conversation right now, asking, what do you think we're going to do, and we're talking about League Leaders' Shield. That in itself is huge improvement. And so, yeah, this season's been great. I've enjoyed everything that I've been able to get a hold of and watch. It's been good.
Yeah, and Andrew, have you been able to convert any Americans into Hull Kingston Rovers and into rugby league? I mean, what's it like where you are? Is it played? Is the opportunity to play the game there?
Well, you can't really see this, but it says Red Mountain Rugby. So I actually coach for a union team because there's no league out here. And I kind of did it against my better judgment, but my son really wanted to play. And so when I took him down, they needed a coach. And so when he was under 8s, I coached him. And it was pretty much because they play a lot of touch and flag out here or tag at that age group. And it's pretty much rugby league rules. So I coached that. It worked pretty well. But in terms of Americans, most of them, if you say rugby, they're familiar with rugby union, not familiar with league. So I spend most of my time explaining the differences. However, there's been the NRL going to Vegas, I think, had quite a big impact. And so there's several families out here that I know went to that, and they're looking forward to going again this year. I was hoping Rovers would be there, but I didn't get to make it last year. But the people that see it love it. We do have a very big Polynesian community out here, and so most of them, like, there's lots. So whenever England have played Tonga, or you see Tonga in the World Cup, most of them follow rugby league, so they know what's going on. In fact, there's one time where I came across somebody and we got talking about rugby, and I asked him who his favorite player was. His answer was 𝗂𝗂𝗎𝗄𝗎𝗄𝗎. And I was expecting a Tongan Union player, but that was his favorite player. And we had a conversation and that was when he was playing at Lee, I think. So we had a big conversation about that. So it's not very popular. It's not very well known, but if they watch it, they do like it. And like I said, we have quite a group out here who do it. And then last year, I think it was last year, my dad will probably correct me, it might be the year before. So I have a brother-in-law who looks like 𝗂𝗂𝗱𝗏𝗏𝗏. And so
that's unfortunate.
I know, right? So him and my other brother-in-law, so he lives in Germany, but they came across to watch the Catalan game. Absolutely loved it. He's converted to being a Rovers fan now. And so we kind of started putting funny posts on social media with him in a Rovers shirt, talking about how 𝗂𝗂𝗱𝗏𝗏𝗏 was going to sign for Rovers.
Yeah.
And so
I did see as well, Andrew, I think it was only maybe last month, 𝗂𝗂𝗽𝗲𝗲, former Robin, he was over in the States, or still is. I think he was involved with a couple of the youth sides, or the USA.
Yeah, in Utah. Yeah. So actually, Utah. Go ahead.
I say once the acting American international as well, like Clint Newton.
Yeah. So 𝗂𝗎𝗽𝗲𝗲, I think, was coaching in Utah recently. So Utah actually have 4 senior age group sides and have a bunch of youth sides. And what they've found is the Polynesian community just love playing rugby league. And so they decided, I think it was last year, they said, let's have an under-19s origin game. So they had all of the Samoan descendants and the Tongan descendants under-19s play each other, and decided that they wanted to create a league out of that. So Arizona, we're not there yet. Like, I honestly don't know how people have time to run rugby clubs. Like, I'd like to do something for rugby league. I just don't have time to do it. And so, but yeah, it's fun. There's lots of opportunities out here. I think it's one of those where if we could get regular coverage and actually have plans on how we could bring in youth teams, it would do pretty well.
Yeah, well, hopefully as well, Andrew, with the talk of what's happening in the future, possibly the World Cup Challenge being taken to Las Vegas. Wouldn't it be great if Hull Kingston Rovers were the side that would feature in that? That'd tick a lot of boxes for you, no doubt.
Oh, yeah, I'd love... Yeah, man, I'm smiling now just thinking about it. I'd love to do that. And honestly, we would get tons of people to go to that. I'd make sure. So.
Yeah. And Andrew, I mean, who's been a standout player for you this season?
Obviously, Mikey Lewis is an obvious one. Let me think. I'll be honest with you. I don't necessarily think there's been a standout. I think across the board we've done pretty well. Yeah, so Mikey's probably the top one, but other than that, I think a lot of them have been pretty even, personally.
Yeah, Andrew, I tell you what, mate, it's been great to catch up with you, and I am going to get you on more regularly because your internet is better than James's, and James only lives 5 minutes from where I live, and you're dialing in from halfway across the world. So it's I'm definitely going to get you on in the future. We'll be talking about Robin's success because
anytime.
After Friday, who knows where we could be, but it's all in front of the Robins, isn't it? And it's great to see the Robins net cast far and wide. So take care, won't you, Andrew? And we'll speak to you very soon.
Will do. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Cheers, Andrew. Good luck.
Amazing, James. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just great to hear, isn't it? That where the Rovers fans are across the world. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, right. Before we talk about the Wigan game, which is absolutely massive, we're going to go straight into stat attack, and I'm going to reel this off as quickly as possible because I'm doing it from well, as you know, I've already mentioned, I forgot my actual notes. So let's see how we go with this. Okay, this week's Stat Attack is a look at the club's honours and records across the since their existence. Club honours: Challenge Cup, of course, they've only won one, which is the 79-80 season. They've won the Challenge Cup plate, which was in 1997. They've won the Championship 5 times, 22-23, 24-25, 78, 79, 83, 84, 84, 85. They've won the Premiership in 80-81 and 83-84, and they've won the John Player Special Trophy in 84-85. They've won the Northern Rail Cup in 2005, the Minor Premiership National League 1, which a lot of people remember, in 2006, the National League 1 in 2006 as well, and the Division 2 Championship in season 89-90 and 95-96. They won the Eastern Division Championship in 62-63, and they won the Yorkshire Cup 7 times in 2020, 2021, 29, 30, 66, 67, 67, 68, 71, 72, 74, 75, and 85, 86. They won the Yorkshire League twice, 24-25 and season 25-26. And they won the BBC Two Floodlit Trophy in 77-78. The highest score the Robins have ever recorded was 100 points to 6 against Nottingham City on the 19th of August 1999. And the highest defeat that the Robins have endured is a joint record, 76 points to 8 defeat to Halifax in 1991 and a 68-0 defeat to Halifax again in 1956. Most club appearances was made by Mike Smith between 75 and 91. He made an astonishing 481, which included 8 as a substitute. The longest sequence of appearances is held by Gilbert Austin. This was made between 1918-19 and 1923-24 when he made 190 consecutive appearances. And the record holder for most international appearances is, of course, held by Roger Millward. This was between 66 and 78 when he made 45 international appearances, which included 2 as a sub. Match records, there's 4 players who have all scored 14 goals in a match: Alfred Carmichael, Mike Fletcher, Colin Armstrong, and Damien Couturier. Match records, we've got tries, which is held by George Henry West. He scored 11 versus Brookland Rovers on the 4th of March 1905. Most points in a match is held by the same player. He scored 53 points in that game. The record for most goals in a season is held by Mike Fletcher, 199 in 89-90 season. Most tries in a season was scored by Gary Prom, 45 in 84-85. Most points in a season is 450 by Mike Fletcher. Mike Fletcher, of course, holds a record for career goals, 1,268. His career with the Robins was 1987 to 1998. Most tries for the Robins is held by Roger Millward, 207, of course, between 1966 and 1980. And most points in his Rovers career is Mike Fletcher, the last one, 2,760, which, of course, was 1987 to 1998. James, we've already played Wigan in a number of big games over the last few seasons, and there's none more bigger than the game on Friday night. Of course, nothing will be decided on Friday night, but it will go a long, long way to deciding where the League Leader Shield will end up come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's. I think probably the last 2 times we played them in, well, 3 times. Haven't you? Beaten once, lost to them twice in semi-finals of the last sort of last couple of years or so. I think fair to say, I think last season in the playoff semi-final and the Challenge Cup semi-final this year, we didn't give a true account of ourselves. I think this team this season is is better, and I think they will use what happened there as to say, look, we can, but we know we can do it. We know we can play better, and there's no reason to doubt the way we've been playing that. We can go to Wigan and we can go and win.
Yeah, James. I mean, I was uber confident almost in going into the game on Friday night, and then I've seen, obviously, we've got Bevan French returning. We saw 𝗪𝗪𝗲𝗏. Smith's back on Friday after his suspension, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to fall back into the Rovers of old mould of, oh no, the team we're going to come up against. Is this Robins team able to match them? Of course, we've seen what Wigan can do over the course of the season. We've seen what the Robins can do. And I do think this genuinely is the best Robins side it's probably the best Super League side we've ever had, because we're guaranteed at least a third place finish now, which of course can't be bettered. And of course, we've got the opportunity to get a home semi-final. We've got the opportunity to go to Old Trafford and the opportunity to get a League Leaders Shield. I don't know, James. I don't know what to make of it. If we was at home facing at Craven Park, I would be. I couldn't see anything other than a Rovers victory. Interestingly, it looks like the Wigan fans are taking this game seriously, because if you look at the ticket sales, what they announced, I think they've got 16,000 sold already. Obviously, there's going to be closer to 1,000 Robins fans there. And the Wigan Warriors do seem to get the shit together when it counts. And that's the only thing at the back of my mind right now.
They do, yeah, because you just look through history and I think you look how many trophies they have won. They've got they've probably been the most consistent team side in the whole history of the game. We can't get over ignore that they are they currently hold all the trophies that are available in the game. They are the world champions. They beat Penrith. So you've got to give them respect for that. But at the end of the day, it's 80 minutes on a rectangular piece of grass. Anything can happen. It can. As I said, we didn't put our best foot forward in the semi-finals recently. Last two semi-finals. But what's the say we're not going to be reverse that on Friday night? I think we look at Wigan and thinking, oh God, they've got French, they've got Smith back, they've got Field, they've got stars across the whole park. They can have off days. I think it's fair to. I think you look at their recent games, they've not been put up any trees. I mean, for goodness' sake, they got beat by the 𝗵𝗵𝗏𝗏. So they are beatable. And I don't think we should be worried about them. I think we should let Wigan worry about Rovers, because, as you said earlier, Salford scored 2 tries against Rovers on Friday night, and that was the first time for goodness knows how long since London really, that anybody scored more than one try. And one of those tries on Salford came 3 minutes from the end. I think if we go into that game playing the games we've been playing over the last 3 or 4 games, then we'll come out and win. The defense has just been absolutely sensational. I think it's just the line speed, the going in, the amount of effort going into the tackles and pushing opposition back and just smothering them and just so they can't be creative. We looked at Sneyd last week. Him being ineffective was down to the Rovers defence and just not allowing the space. And if we can do that to Sneyd, we can do that to French. I think it's interesting that when we beat them in the Challenge Cup semi-final last year, French hardly noticed he was on the field. It was smothered out of the game. We can do that again. He's clear back on Friday night, on Saturday against Catalans. He's going to be rusty. He's been out 9 weeks or so with a hamstring, so he's going to be rusty still. I mean, it's all relative, but if we can tackle and defend like we have done, and then we've got the forward, the attacking prowess to, I think, cause them problems as well.
Yeah, Matty Lane on YouTube, he's commented, the difference this season is if we do make a mistake, we defend it. It is a feature of the side, isn't it, James. Not just that if they make a mistake, they defend it, but also the willingness and the togetherness. You know, if someone makes a mistake, the team backs them up. You know, it's not a case of looking round, finger pointing. It's right. What can we do to negate that? And that is something that is really refreshing. And I do think the defence is going to be so important on Friday night. Of course, I mean that's an obvious thing to say, isn't it? Because you know Wigan will be going all guns blazing. Not least the fact the points difference is in favour of the Robins, isn't it? So you know they know they need to go to win this game by scoring points. I don't think they can win it by basing it purely on their defence. Whereas I think we can. I think we've got the strike players who are hitting top form at the moment. And this really is, we talked about a lot on this Robin pod about Mikey Lewis and him taking his chance and him shining on the big stage. Well, you know, they do get bigger than this, but this is the biggest one right now, isn't it? Friday night. All eyes are on this game. People will be tuning in to see what Mikey Lewis can do, whether the Robins can come away with a victory. You know, people have suggested that the Robins are the real deal. This is the time to really showcase what they can do, because I think as supporters, James, we know they've got it in them. They can do it. We've seen what they can do over the last few weeks. You know, we're so desperate to see this team do well and achieve something that many of us watching and listening to this will never have seen in our lifetime. So, you know, I can see why there's a lot of pressure on this side to go and achieve the victory. Although it ain't the be-all and end-all, is it? Because if they do lose and they still maintain that decent points difference, there's every chance that they can still come away with a league leader shield at the end of the season.
There is, and I think just going back to the point you're making about if we do make a mistake, we defend that mistake. And I think something that occurred to me after the St Helens game, and it was only a couple of days afterwards, and it was actually how we capitalise on other teams' mistakes. I think one of the things that Rovers have not been very good at in the past, you look at the really great teams, they capitalise on the errors from other teams. You look at the Saints game, we scored after they're knocked on that first tackle from the kickoff. We scored in that set. And when Wonga Blake was in the sin bin, we scored 2 tries. You know, I remember seeing Rovers a few years ago play Warrington, and Warrington down to 11 men, and they never looked like scoring. But now the team goes down to 12 men against Rovers. You know they're going to be in bother.
Well, how many times, James, are we used to seeing Rovers getting a scrum in a great opportunity and then they pass it out on the first tackle or knock it off? You know, and you're right. At the moment, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is a team who can smell weakness and can smell opportunity.
It is, and I think that's what the difference between a good team and a great team, that they can capitalise on those things. And then I think also going back to the point about the if we do lose on Friday, it's not the be all and end all. If you actually look at the way the semi-finals work out, if we finish second, we actually get an extra day off for the grand final if we get through, because that's on the Friday night, and the team that wins gets the league leadership plays on a Saturday tea time. So in a way,
James, you're already creating your silver lining, aren't you?
I am indeed, covering all bases, Chris. I'm covering all bases.
Yeah, I mean, Willie Peters he's got some big calls to make on Friday. Obviously, James Batchelor, he's back from his 1-game suspension. You expect him to come straight back into the side. Although Matty Staunton and Dean Hadley did very well in the second row against Salford. And of course, as we record this, we don't know what the squad is for Friday night. We expect Oliver Gildart and Joe Burgess to be in there ready for Friday. Whether they're fit to play on Friday is another one, because Willie Peters spoke early today, and I don't think he was giving anything much away in terms of whether they'd feature or not. Oliver Gildart's an interesting one, isn't it? HIA. We wish him all the best. We hope it's not a recurrence of anything that he suffered in the past, so you can understand why they're doing all the checks on him. Burgess, apparently it was a calf injury that he did in the captain's run last week. Who knows where that leads him? But like we said earlier on in the Robin pod, James, we've got no fear in if we are with Tom Opacek and Jack Broadbent, whether they are the players who make the cut on Friday night. No one's worried about that, are we? And to be fair, James, do they earn their right to retain the place in the side?
I think they do. I think obviously Batchelor's going to go straight in instead of Matt, in place of probably Staunton. But again, I thought Staunton was superb on Friday night. So again, but I think because 𝗵𝗀𝗃 was suspended, he hasn't got any risk about an injury, concerns about an injury. But I think with regards to Burgess and 𝗫𝗫𝗏, if there's any doubts whatsoever that they're not 100%, I wouldn't play them, because we've seen that Broadbent and 𝗀𝗃𝗃 coming into the squad, into the team, we don't lose anything. We've got the defensive solidity from 𝗀𝗃𝗃, and then we've got that try scoring ability, and just from Broadbent. So again, we wouldn't be weakened at all.
Yeah, and I dare say, James, as well, like I've already mentioned, I think defence is going to be paramount on Friday. Tom 𝗀𝗃𝗃 playing instead of Oliver 𝗫𝗫𝗏. I don't know. Maybe this is the right game for him to play anyway. Based on what protection he can offer out there on the left wing with Ryan Hall. But it's great. I mean, what interested me about, and we're going back to James Batchelor when he got suspended, about how important James Batchelor was in terms of his defences. Basically, he got punished because his willingness to work. So he was saying about, as the defence slid over and there was going over to that edge, a lot of second rows would have probably left it to the centre and the winger to defend. But Batchelor doesn't have that in him. He wants to get involved in the game. He wants to help his teammates. He wants to be involved. He wants to make the difference. And it was, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot he could do. He copped the game ban. But I think he's going to be so important coming into the side as well in terms of what he does in defence. We haven't seen so much from Batchelor, have we, in terms of attacking rugby? I think he hasn't necessarily been running the same lines as Ṱanganoa, but that's easier said than done, isn't it? But in terms of his defence work, he's been absolutely outstanding. And if it weren't for his injury, he'd have been definitely right up there as one of Rovers' top tacklers this year. I think he still is. I think he's either third or fourth at top tackler despite his injury layoff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he is he's one of the best defenders of the club, and I think for me, one thing that sort of was highlighted when he came into the squad last year and is that wasn't really how good he was at attacking. But I think because we've got Ṱanganoa this year, I don't think he's really necessarily needs to do it. It's just focusing on that defence, and because he's been able to focus on that defence, that's why it's one of our key points. One of our key strengths this year.
Yeah, and I mean as well, James, full credit to a club offering £1 coach travel again to members. They've done it for a couple of games now, I think, this season. Which has been evidenced by how many supporters are then going and backing the Robins. And it is a big game. And I do think this is a game, James, where the supporters can really make a difference. We've seen how important the crowd is at Craven Park. We've seen how important the crowd was at the Warrington game and seeing that bank of red and white and pink behind the stands. And the Robins players and Willie Peters seem to thrive off the crowd. And seeing them in numbers and seeing us making the noise and hearing us and almost being together as one. So I do urge any Robins supporter who was going there on Friday night to really make the difference, because I do think we can. I honestly think, because that Wigan crowd can turn when things aren't going that way. And yes, they might have 16,000, 17,000 there. But I tell you what, if Rovers start running up a bit of a lead, they will go quiet as a mouse. There's no doubt about that.
They will, yeah. I think I was staggered when the club announced that I think on the end of the weekend that they've already sold 1,400 tickets. So you think there's going to be 2,500 there hopefully on Friday night. And I just echo what you said. If you can get there, because this is one game where the team really will need us behind them. It's one of those grounds where, you can create that noise because of the roof. And they said the Wigan fans won't get behind their team, unless really they are very quiet. So it's a chance for us to sort of be there, step up and shout the team to victory.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting encounter. One that I cannot wait for, and I'm sure many Rovers fans are feeling exactly the same as me. James, what's your thoughts? Are you nervous? Are you confident? Are you just waiting to see what unfolds? We're all trying to. I mean, the run of form we're on suggests that the Robins are maybe favourites. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I think we are.
Bookies will have them favourites, but
they probably won't do. I mean, I'm a sort of a glass half empty type of guy. As people who follow me on Twitter will know. But I'm confident about Friday night. You know, we've got that monkey off our back about not being able to win out of Yorkshire now. You know, we've gone to Warrington, beat Warrington, we've beaten Saints. Let's make it 3 at Wigan and just really lay down a marker for the end of the season. Actually, then make the pundits, you know, really take us seriously. And I think, as you said, I think a lot of the Wigan fans are now getting. I think they're probably getting a bit twitchy about it. Seeing some of the comments that they're making around about Rovers and Mikey and what around it. I think they are getting a bit twitchy. I think it's a lot of they've got the right to, because as I said, the world champions, they hold all the trophies, etc. But I think they're going to be facing a team now on Friday night that has potential to beat them, and I think they probably see that. We beat them early in the season at Craven Park. Again, I think nobody expected us to beat them at Craven Park early in the season, but we did. So yeah, I'm confident. I am confident. Which for me is a big thing to say.
What I would say is that the Wigan fans weren't exactly unanimous in offering out praise to the Warriors after the victory over Catalan, especially at half time. So I don't think they're particularly impressed with how the Warriors have been performing, albeit they are level on points with the Robins at the moment. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen? Like I said, if you are going to the game on Friday night, make sure that you are loud and proud and get behind the boys, because I do think we are on the verge of achieving something really special, which now leads us to our last feature of the Robin Pod, which is question time. Of course, each week I ask you, the listeners, the viewers, to comment on my social media posts and ask any question you want, and we'll do our best to try and answer. We're going to kick off, though, James, with a question from me to you, and it's: are you happy with the signing of Rhys Martin?
Delighted, absolutely delighted. I think one of the things we've clearly missed this year has been a decent goal kicker, and I think it was fortunate. I think we're fortunate that Friday night didn't come down to goal kicking. So I think if it come down to goal kicking, we probably would have lost. But I think being able to bring somebody the quality of Rhys Martin into the squad, I think it's like the final piece in the jigsaw of where we are. That's just that piece. It was that piece that was missing. And I think over the last sort of few games playing for Leeds, I think there's other aspects of his playing that I hadn't really noticed. He's got a fantastic turn of speed, which I hadn't sort of really twigged before. I know Leeds have played him at centres, and the try he sort of set up for Lucky Miller on Sunday against London, that put them back put them in the lead. It was just sensational, and I just can't wait to see him play for Rovers.
Yeah, although I will be reminding him when we see him at the start of pre-season. Do you remember that time when you could have put that lot bottom of the league and you didn't? You went on a one-man mission to try and stop them by scoring as many points as you could against London. I mean, anyone who saw that just can see how vitally important it's going to be for the Robins next season. And interestingly, you only have to look at our missed kicks. We're top of Super League currently for missed goals. I think we're on 43. Which is huge. Salford, of course, Mark Sneyd, they've only missed 10 goals this season. Imagine them 43 kicks, what they could have done for us. All ifs, would have, what should have, could have, but they could be imperative. And of course, Rhys Martin, I fully expect to be taking over the kicking duties next season. Right, next question. Livy over on X, I think we've already answered that. She asked about whether Gildart or Broadbent or 𝗲𝗂𝗀𝗏 will start on Friday. Fantasy question, or maybe not, who knows, for the pod. If one of Rovers' backers wanted to wholly finance 2 marquee players, paying 1.5 million Aussie dollars per player per year, who could we realistically get? Choose one forward, one back. Obviously, Willie Peters would decide if this was ever to happen. Obviously, I don't think he'd be listening to me and you, James, if that was that opportunity was ever presented. I mean, I don't know. You take when you're talking at that levels of money, you're taking your pick at most signings. Probably not a Nathan Cleary or someone like James 𝗪𝗂𝗏, but you're in the ballpark for a lot of players there, aren't you? And yeah. Interestingly, James, Paul Lakin on the Sky Sports Rugby League podcast, what John Wilkin and Jenna Brooks said, there was quizzing him about recruitment. He said next year's done, 2025 is signed, sealed, delivered. They're not looking at anyone else. They're already looking at 2026. And then he was talking about what positions they're looking to bolster. And he did say about the forwards. I mean, read into that whatever you want. Have you got any names, James, for if you had $1.5 million Aussie dollars and you wanted to go sign anyone from the NRL? For me, do you know what, James? I'd probably take God. I reckon you could get him. I think we could do with Divan.
I think Josh Adokar. I think I'd take him.
Yeah, he's not half bad, is he? He seems to be all right.
And one I always liked is David 𝗂𝗂𝗏.
Yeah, I mean, he was rumoured with Robins, wasn't he? He was, when we was looking at props.
Yeah,
Azar85 on YouTube, he says Terrell May all day long. I mean, we're really in fantasy rugby league now, aren't we? Next question. The Robin from Oz, Leonard Gregory, who we mentioned earlier on the Robin pod, he's obviously tuning in from down under. Of your regular guests, who has the sexiest voice? Wow, what a question that is. Because we're all
no, yes, about the voice.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not the looks.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, yeah, I don't know. What do you reckon, James? Andrew Freeman, I wouldn't say he had the sexiest voice. He probably had the most unique one.
Yeah, I think Andrew, yeah. I think Andrew that one.
Of the regulars, I don't know. I mean, Jenna Brooks, she's been on the Robin pod. I think she's got a decent voice. I don't know. What do you reckon, James?
I've no idea.
Yeah. No idea whatsoever, Len. I'll tell you what, Len, you put your suggestions forward and we'll see if we agree with that. Lewis Hales over on Facebook, he asks, so Wigan get massive game Friday. They have blown us away the last 2 times in big games. Do you think the club has grown and changed enough to allow us to compete now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty straightforward one.
Yeah, I think in all seriousness, I think the key thing for us on Friday night is to start strongly. I think if you look at when the 2 semi-finals where they've blown us away, the playoff last year and the Challenge Cup this year, we're basically on the coach. We just hadn't got off the coach, and it was like over within about 20 minutes. I think if we're still competing within 20-25 minutes, we'll go on to win. It's how we start that's going to be key. I think we need to start strong because like us, Wigan. I think Rovers and Wigan are the only 2 teams in Super League who every time when they've taken the lead, they've got 100% win ratio. So that's going to go. So one of us is going to lose our record on Friday night. Let's hope it's.
Yeah, and of course, James, you have to go back to the Catalan defeat at home, don't you? The Golden Point. I think that was the last time that the Robins really had to chase the game to get back into it. Ultimately, they left themselves too much to do, which is why it did cost us 2 points. Following on from that, we pretty much dominated from the off. I'd love to see that against Wigan because
we
have
be
able to respond how they expect they'd be able to.
Yeah, I think also that Catalan game was our only defeat since we got beat by Wigan in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah. So it shows, doesn't it? It shows you what this side is capable of, and like you said, fast start. I'm sure the players will be determined to do that. And interestingly, do you know what? I didn't even mention it. I mentioned it on social media, James, about Ethan Ryan. You said about the fast start. Of course, he made that error from the kickoff, and I love Ethan Ryan. He's been on the Robin pod. He did a heritage cast, and I think he did some great things for the Robins. Ultimately, though, that game against Salford showed me why was let him go, and we've let other players before him depart as well because they just want the player that would take us to that next level. Yeah,
totally agree. I think you look at all the players, a lot of the players who've gone. you're not thinking, they've not as though they've gone to, a different level with the new clubs. So now I think Willie Peters has got most things right since he's come in. So yeah, let's trust in Willie Peters.
Yeah, Adam Wadforth on Facebook. I mean, of course, it's the hot topic of the moment. Burgess, if he's fit, would you keep him or would you put Broadbent in the starting lineup? I'm going to put my neck out, James, and say that if Burgess is fit, I think he starts. As good as Broadbent has been. Yeah. I just think Burgess's big game experience and his pace. I know Broadbent's quite a quick lad himself, but Burgess just. But obviously, the type of injury that we think he's picked up, which is isn't an easy one to recover from, and whether that affects him or not. But like you said, James, if they're not fully fit, they won't play.
No, and I think the other aspect with Burgess is that if he is fully fit and he comes in, he's got that big game experience, which he's obviously done it with Wigan, ironic enough. So I think that's going to be key. It's going to be the big game. The players who've got that big game experience who will be hopefully stepping up on Friday night. So again, that does suggest, does that suggest that Gildat comes in instead of 𝗲𝗂𝗃, but 𝗲𝗃𝗃's done it in the NRL. Gildat's done it in Super League. You're not going to lose out with either of them, are you?
No. Well, roll on Friday night and let's see what that lineup looks like. That is question time. James, just very quickly, the Robins now are officially a freestand 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 vans and what is it?
2.5 stands.
Year 10 stadium. The South stand has been demolished. Many supporters might not even be aware or have seen it, but the old Speedway stand that has obviously been used for games as well is no more. It'd be obviously exciting to see what happens. We've got the 3G pitch development, which is taking place, and that is one of the reasons why that's gone. And of course, the big question now is about expansion at Craven Park, isn't it? Because we've seen the demand for tickets, the fact that the Leeds home game is sold out, and we're 3 weeks away. I'm surprised that the club haven't tried. I'm sure they have actually. Haven't tried to look at temporary seating solutions to sell out a game that far in advance, and it's to the point where I think Leeds Rhinos have actually returned some tickets so they can get more Rovers supporters into the North Stand. Exciting times, and the club are very shrewd at capitalising on these moments, aren't they? So hopefully there's some way of getting more Rovers fans into Craven Park in the future.
There is. I think I think it's staggering that we've sold out that Leeds game already. They probably will have been looking at getting some temporary solution. I suppose the challenge comes down to all the planning you have to go through and sort of legal things you have to go through, get approval, etc., which probably would take till the end of the season to get through anyway. But we'll just have to get it in there for the World Championship.
That'd be very nice. Congratulations to Rovers women. They defeated Stanley 20 points to 12 at the weekend. Great to see them pick up a win. And for the Robins, who were travelling to Wigan on Friday night and then travelling back home along the M62, guess what? There's going to be a bit of disruption on the way home because the M62 is going to be closed between junction 18 and junction 20 from 9 p.m. on Friday night. And if you look at the diversion that's been offered up, it looks like it's going to be a long one, James, on Friday night.
Yeah, it will.
And we won't expect anything less after a night in Wigan.
No.
Yeah. Right. If you are going to the game on Friday, have a safe journey. A huge thanks to everyone who's tuned in on YouTube this evening, who was watching it after this, and of course, if you're listening to it on podcast. James, thank you for this week's edition. A huge thank you to Andrew Freeman, who joined us live on the Robin Pod from America. This has been the Robin Pod Weekly, which is powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers.